Hi everybody, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface with my review of patch 8.0, the release of Battle for Azeroth, arriving in approximately 24 hours from now. Before I go into my full and honest opinions about it, I do have to give a thank you to Blizzard Entertainment for allowing me access to the alpha and beta processes, something they have done ever since I was a YouTube creator. So whether or not I agree with them or disagree with them, they have always provided me with a platform to voice my opinion, and I am legitimately grateful for that. I will be dealing with all major forms of content in this patch. However, if I am going to discuss things like story, I'll do it in a nice, vague, non-spoilery way for you. So with that said, let's get straight in to this review. BFA is made up of two major continents, Zandalar for the Horde and Kolteras for the Alliance. And each of these continents have three separate zones within themselves. Now, this is where I'm going to start to sound a little bit like a broken record because the art department have once again absolutely outdone themselves. These zones look simply gorgeous and they have their own unique aesthetic and feel to them. And even within the zone itself, there are many different looks as you progress as well. It's very, very rare that the art department make a misstep, and in this occasion, they haven't even come close. Whether you are on Kolteras or Zandalar, any zone that you're in, it should be an absolute joy to behold. Particular favourite of mine is in Zandalar, and it's Vol'dun, a very deserty area which has loads of destroyed troll ruins, showing an empire which has fallen into decay. But my goodness me, even the thought of it makes you conjure up the images of what could have been. On top of that, traversing in these zones is wonderfully complemented by the ambient music that the team have brought with it as well. Wherever you seem to be, the music really does mirror and absolutely complement the zone that you're in. So both the art department and the music department have put so much love, care and attention, and it shines through in spades, and I can't speak highly enough of them. So now that we have a gorgeous world to be in, just exactly how good is the leveling? Well, the lofty story that the pre-expansion brought with it is rather jarringly pushed to one side, and we now have very insular stories based around the zones that we're in. That said, they're very good for the most part and very interesting indeed. Particular favourite of mine being Justvar, an area that deals with witchcraft and possession and Wiccan and all this kind of jazz, culminating in a fantastic dungeon run in a haunted house. You can't believe how much I wanted a haunted house dungeon in the World of Warcraft, but I'll get to dungeons a wee bit later on. Some stories don't quite hit the mark, but for the most part, as I said, they do. But we've got some old god stuff in there, the Zandalari stuff dealing with lower and all that kind of jazz. So there should be something to cater for everybody. If it isn't your cup of tea, you might come across another storyline that is. With that said, it's very limited indeed. There are only 3 zones per continent, and so while your first run through might be highly enjoyable, there isn't anywhere really for your alts to go that is different, and so you are going to be repeating this stuff over and over again. And considering how a lot of people want to have their alts as higher level as their main characters and the problems that it does seem to cause throughout the lifespan of an expansion, I don't think this is something that Blizzard really thought about. And so the alt experience might actually be a little bit dull, a little bit grindy, and a little bit repetitive. But for a first run, it should be a pretty decent experience. But before we begin any of this, we have to acquire our new artifact for this expansion, and it's called the Heart of Azeroth, a necklace. Now, when Legion came, when we had to acquire the artifact weapons, Blizzard actually constructed some pretty interesting storylines based off what they were. What Blizzard did say, though, was because of the variation with the different classes, they couldn't really keep this up. The workload was just too much. But now that it's been simplified to a singular necklace that all classes, races, etc. wear, I was hoping for something a little bit special here in how to acquire it. I was massively let down. You talk to Magni, you go through a teleporter, you talk to Magni, he gives you the Heart of Azeroth. You then pick up 5 things from the floor, and you're done. It's really non-inspiring, it makes the Heart of Azeroth feel really unimportant indeed, and it left us with a bit of a bitter taste in my mouth. But that really is exactly what the Heart of Azeroth is. It's just a device and nothing more. Something to pump artifact power in because of what we have next, which is Azurite Armor. Now, Azurite Armor replaces tier gear in this expansion, and it comes in the form of 3 different pieces: head, shoulders, and chest. And in these pieces, there are certain abilities which need to be unlocked at certain levels, and they are determined by the level of your Heart of Azeroth. Now, this is the first problem that I have, because now it turns the Heart of Azeroth into a compulsory artifact power grind, straight after an expansion which had a compulsory artifact power grind. I really fancied a break from this. I didn't really want to go straight into another one. And I think a lot of people are going to feel the same way because it feels identical. The only difference being that instead of having to click the artifact power, it's automatically applied to the necklace. And this is the second problem. The actual abilities on the Azurite Armor themselves just aren't really that inspiring or exciting. There's nothing that I've seen that's really made me kind of go, ooh, or wow. And on top of that, they're always passive. So when you're out in the actual world doing something, you never feel the benefit of the Azurite Armor because it's just something which is passively happening. If there were more active abilities that you could get from them, then yeah, sure, maybe you'd feel it a bit more and feel more connected to the Azurite Armor. But because they are all passive, you just don't. Now, this is a system which can be repaired, tweaked, fixed, or whatever in future patches of this expansion. But right for now, they aren't that great. And when the top ability is just a flat item level increase of 5, then it kind of feels like Blizzard really don't know themselves what they wanted to do with this new form of gear. Further disappointments come in the form of the command table. Yes, it's back and as uninspiring as ever. Why Blizzard have put this back in, I have no idea. It just gives the illusion that you're doing something when you actually aren't. And the game would actually be much better for it not being here. It doesn't serve any relevant purpose whatsoever other than to not put content into the game for players to do. I'm not going to waste any more time on this absolute garbage. Blizzard, please just get rid of it. And while nowhere near as bad as something like the command table, something which is just a complete letdown once again is the profession system. If Blizzard put the care and attention into primary and secondary profession revamps as they do into messing around with classes every expansion, we could have something really special here. But I understand they want things to be accessible for all, but most of the stuff on professions, the vast majority, are going to be utterly irrelevant within a couple of weeks of the life of the expansion. They need to be really fleshed out and put there for people who actually want to participate in this expansion from start to finish, because right now they're pretty much hot garbage. Let's turn to something a little bit more positive now. Battle for Azeroth brings with it 8 brand new dungeons. And although one of the dungeons, the Motherlode, is possibly the worst dungeon I've ever done in WoW, the other 7 are absolutely fantastic. I'm really impressed at the level of quality that has been put within those dungeons. And so not only did I have an enjoyable experience and I really had a fun time within them, But it legitimately inspired me to want to maybe go a little bit harder into Mythic plus Dungeoneering this expansion, something I didn't really go too hard in Legion at all. That was the quality level of the dungeons, especially if I can get a group of my real life friends together. It feels like it's something that could be really, really cool indeed. But I got my Haunted House dungeon, which I've always wanted in the World of Warcraft. But other than that, there were some great locations, great little fun boss fights, and you think about the varying levels of difficulty that you can now bring to the table with Mythic Plus. Dungeons got a massive, massive thumbs up for me. Keeping up the positive vibes, I absolutely adore the new Island Expedition content coming in BFA. It feels as if somebody looked at the weak Mists of Pandaria scenario system and said, how can I fix this? How can I actually make this fun for people? Because I think it really, really succeeds. You're in a 3-person group like this scenario, but instead of just being up against NPCs, you're actually pitted up against 3 advanced AI of the opposing faction in normal, heroic, and mythic difficulty levels. You have to race around a small island, picking up as much Azurite as possible and beating the opponents to the punch. You can engage in combat with them, and it should feel as if you're playing against a player. On top of that, you'll be able to farm the Azurite from rares, pick up little trinkets which should aid you in fighting the creatures, and if you really want to do it, you can actually do this in a PvP system as well, putting you instead against AI, against players. And so you do have a genuine scrap to grab the Azurite on the islands. It's small, it's bite-sized content, it doesn't last too long, but it's really fast and I found it a lot of fun, and it's something I'd really, really like to do with a couple of friends of mine. I think if we got into Discord, we could have an almighty laugh doing this. And because it does have those varying degrees of difficulty level, you should be able to find one suitable for yourself, pit yourself up against something a wee bit more difficult, and there is the potential, even though I am personally not a fan of PvP, there is the potential for me to think, well, with a couple of friends, I might be tempted to go up against some other players in the game in this environment. So Island Expeditions, massive, massive thumb up. Now, although I didn't participate in the alpha or beta testing for raiding within Battle for Azeroth, I've not heard anything negative about it either. Blizzard very rarely mess up raiding. You know, there's possibly a raid that people don't gravitate towards once every couple of expansions or so. But I imagine raiding to be of the typically high level that it normally is within the World of Warcraft. So although I haven't tested it, I'm going to give it a pass because it's probably going to be decent to do. And that leaves us with Warfronts as brand new instance-based content, and unfortunately, this one lets us down. Warfronts I just found incredibly dull. Really, really boring. I get the idea of them, and I like the idea of them. A kind of MOBA-esque environment, but you're participating within it. I get it. It sounds good. But in practice, it's really, really dull. You're in with 19 other people in a group of 20, but it feels as if only half of you actually have to do anything. The level of difficulty feels real base and LFR in nature. And if that's what Blizzard want to go with, I don't understand the ludicrous level of rewards for actually completing it. They are massive. But it's the actual gameplay element which lets Warfronts down. It's just go up a lane, kill a few mobs, get a flag, move up a lane further, kill a few mobs, get the flag, try and smash the enemy gates open, go into the base, kill the boss. There's nothing really inspiring about it whatsoever. You run around, you get wood, you get metal, it feels as if you're just doing something for the sake of doing something. It doesn't feel really thought out, and it's pretty poor. But what's worse is when you actually control the zone, it makes the zone available for you, the Arathi Highlands. But the content within it, again, is so weak. Number one, you can fly. So you can fly over most forms of danger. There's no real threat in the zone whatsoever. And then the quests that you get are just kill. Kill this, kill that, kill this, kill that, kill this, kill that. There's no variation whatsoever. Very boring, very dull, and ridiculously high in reward. So it feels as if people can gear up really well for doing next to nothing. I wanted this zone to be more akin to the Timeless Isles. I wanted to have events that happened here. Things which could get people working together. Something dynamic. But instead, it's very lame, it's very dull, and the actual Warfront itself is just boring beyond compare. So, at least with instances, I have alternatives. I've got island expeditions, I've got dungeoneering, and raiding. And this brings us to our final form of major content, the external world. Because I personally just don't get it. And to me, this is where Battle for Azeroth is at its absolute weakest. What is there to do in an open world at top level? Well, you've got rare mobs, you've got treasure chests, and you've got world quests. So, as regards to rare mobs, what do they actually give you? Well, nothing really. And how difficult are they? Really easy. So, my question to Blizzard would be, what's the point of them even being in the game? They don't offer anything, they don't enhance the game, they're just there, seemingly as a way to drop grey items to sell to vendors. And then there's the treasure chests. Oh, there's a piece of gear here, an Azurite Armor piece here. Oh, that's good. And then you look at the item level, and then you look at the item level compared to what you'd get in dungeons, raids, warfronts, and even in world questing. And it's going to be redundant immediately. It just doesn't seem to make any sense. But if you were to take that out of the treasure chest, what else is in it? Bit of gold, bit of Azurite power, war resources, yawn, or just trash items once more to vendor. So that once more, for the second expansion in a row, means that the vast, vast majority of external world content is once more just world questing. Now, I don't have a problem with world quests as a form of content, but I do have a massive problem when world questing is essentially the only external world content. And on top of that, the rewards for them are again identical to Legion. Bit of gold, a bit of gear for gearing up, maybe for a pet item, Azurite power, war resources, little bit of rep. There's just nothing exciting about them. It's really, really dull. And so when I turned up to the opposing faction area in Zandalar as a member of the Alliance, and I was kind of expecting a Suramar-esque experience as a big story was going to be played out, I was just greeted at top level by world quests, world quests, world quests. And having just done an expansion of this, I wanted to know where my variety was. Where's the new stuff in the outside world? Where are the dynamic events that bring people to work together? Where's the fun stuff? There's just nothing. It felt so dull. And I just wanted to go back to the capital city and queue for an instance. Queue for a dungeon, queue for an island expedition, but do anything than be out in the most beautiful world that the art department have created. It frustrated me no end. It felt as if Blizzard didn't give the outside world a second thought. Their default mode was just, we'll just fill it full of world quests. And there was never a discussion about anything else that could possibly go in it. Now, players that are going to engage in war mode are going to get a better experience, but they're creating it themselves, not Blizzard. They're going to be fighting enemy players. They're going to have loot drops coming in to fight over as well. But PvE players, they're going to have a really, really monotonous time. If you're bored of world quests in Legion, hey presto, here's some more to start off your brand new and exciting expansion. It just doesn't seem to make any logical sense. There's way too many things in Battle for Azeroth which just feel like they've been plucked from Legion and dumped in without any thought to actually what might stimulate people and make players have an enjoyable experience. So bringing this review to a conclusion now, there are things about Battle for Azeroth which I really like and I'm very much looking forward to getting into. Number one, the places look gorgeous. It's an environment that I'd love to be in. Number two, leveling up. There's some great little stories in a lot of these zones, which I'm going to be interested to do again. Number three, dungeons seem to be of a really good quality of this expansion so far, and it's definitely making me feel about doing Mythic Plus at top level. Number four, island expeditions really hit home with me. I really like them. Great bite-sized content, which is just fun, fast and engaging, and with multiple islands can feel different each time. But there is so much which just misses the mark. So much which just feels lazy. So much which just feels as if it's been copied from Legion and pasted into Battle for Azeroth with absolutely no thought. Warfronts, boring. Professions, absolutely irrelevant and in need of a massive, massive overhaul. The outside world at top level is a dreadful place to be. So boring. It doesn't feel as if I've left the Broken Isles. It just feels as if I'm continuing from that. Azurite Armor, not great. Heart of Azeroth, just a dump for artifact power and nothing more. I could go on a little bit, but you've heard me in review already. So I've got to grade this. I've got to give this a mark. Out of 10, patch 8.0 gets 6.5. I can't give it higher than that. To do so would just be wrong. It's certainly not Warlords of Draenor level bad by any stretch of the imagination. There is good stuff here. But there does feel as if there is such a disconnect with thought as to content which goes into the game. As if Blizzard feel as if they just have to put something in without actually thinking what that something may be. With Warfronts, they had feedback from the immediate time they came out about how dull they are from so many people. They did nothing to change that. Kind of get the feeling of if Blizzard just content with throwing things out and not necessarily content with thinking about what should go in. So with that, I'm going to call this video. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, do get a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and Twitch for live streaming. Links, they're in the description box down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.